Toronto was like mini New York that year, man. It was just, and it was terrible because the way they portrayed it in the newspapers and the news, they actually put every one of the people who was murdered faces in the newspaper, so you can identify. You could put a face to the name. You know what I'm saying? And that to me was wrong. People deserve their privacy, although it was a violent, they left the earth in violence, they still deserve that privacy. And I could guarantee you, I speak for every one of those families, that they did not want that. And I feel like the media only portrays those things to catch people's attention.
Talking about how the media was portraying us at that time. Like, younger kids, if they didn't know better, if you keep hearing the same stuff all the time about your neighborhood, like, if you don't know better, you're gonna start believing that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Of course, yeah.
So a lot of the youth in that time too, like, you're hearing all this stuff all the time. That's all they're feeding to you in school, in the mall, everywhere you go. Eventually, you're gonna start saying, you know, everyone is saying this about me, whatever. Like, you know, they're gonna start believing some of that stuff. So that had a big impact on a lot of the youth growing up in that time as well, you know.
And so in 2005, I actually traveled to Venezuela for the World Festival of Youth and Students, and was confronted and connected with like 25,000 young people between the ages of 16 to 30 who are all involved in youth organizing or in change and transformative social justice in some way or fashion. And I was completely inspired and influenced by this trip. When I came back, I definitely became more aware of what was going on locally beyond like the things that my friends were telling me. So definitely my awareness of the violence that was going on was much less connected to the news as it was connected to my community. So I live on Churchway, Southside Jane Strip, and so I was learning about different things like that. And when Amon Beckles died, who was a young man that I knew, just a few days after Jamal Hemingway passed as well, that really directly affected me. And I think that was when I started to pay attention more to what the news was reporting. So I feel like my analysis and understanding of the media frenzy around the so-called Summer of the Gun actually happened after the media frenzy. It was after, I guess, Jane Kriba and after all of these things that I started looking back and being like, what the hell was going on? Like, why was it being reported in these ways? Why is this the language that was being used? Why is it only now that the death of a young black male receives reporting in more than a 5-second segment, as it has continued to do now? So they kind of went through a period where they actually gave a story behind it, and that was only for a certain amount of time. And I feel like now they've kind of gone back to the way it was before.
2005, yeah, that had a big impact on me, and that's a reason that me personally, I go out to all these different communities, and I talk about this stuff. You know, I have a track called Hood Life, talking about this stuff. The hood goes, we minorities living in priorities. On the streets, we stopped by authorities. And even though we out here trying to live the good life, no matter what, we kind of stuck in the hood life. And then the track just talks about everything, all these stereotypes, the way the media looks at us. But then at the end of the day, who knows how we're really living? You know what I'm saying? Who knows that, you know, we're working 2 jobs, 2, 3 jobs? Who knows that we're volunteering in our community, different communities? You know what I'm saying? Who knows that we're going to university, college, doing master degrees? Like, you know what I'm saying? They don't know all of that. All they see is these bad children. We don't want nothing to do with them, and that's it.
It's literally what the media portrays, and it's giving everybody such a bad taste in their mouth that we don't know how to get rid of it. You know what I'm saying? The most we can do is just carry on with our lives.
I don't think the government responded adequately. I think that what ended up happening was very reactionary, which was that a bunch of money was thrown to quell this so-called new issue, which was not a new issue, which is something that has been going on. And I think also the idea of violence became very pigeonholed, and it became locked in this box of young black males. And the fact that those young black males had spilled over into the killing of a young white female now made it something that was deserving of attention. And even now to this day, when people talk about the Summer of the Gun, you cannot hear about it without hearing Jane Kriba's name. So I think the government response was actually a reaction, like a knee-jerk reaction, as opposed to something that was considered reflective, that was looking at a long-term vision. It was more like, let's put some money on this, deal with this during our election terms, and then move on to the next thing that the public is really concerned about, as confirmed by the media. So a ton of money went to policing, tons and tons of money, and then a much smaller chunk of money went into community.